Put it on, girl. Let me see it. Put it on, girl. Let me see it.
Welcome to Accidentally Informed, where
we can't guarantee that you'll learn something, but actually today we can.
Oh, absolutely today. Yes. How you doing? You look beautiful.
Well, thank you. You look beautiful as well. We have such a jam-packed day. I think we just dive right in.
Girl, I'm so excited about this. You know, I am a political junkie, political nerd. That's all I watch. You can ask me about the reality shows. I have to go study that. You can ask me about the newest movies. I'm like, wait, what? I'm always late, but not today. So I'm not home. I'm on the road with my play, but we're going to get into that later because that is not the priority. So let's just get straight into our guest. We have a very special guest. He's a man who's told me a couple months ago that he'd be on our show. He gave me his word, and today he is fulfilling his promise. Please welcome to Accidentally Informed House Democratic Leader, Hakeem Jeffries. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. What's up? Great to be on with both of you.
Oh, Congressman, we are so lucky and honored to have you.
A man of your word.
Well, listen, your word is your bond. That's how I was taught growing up.
That's right. That's right.
So
I was
it's an honor to be on. I'm pleased that you all have found the space. A lot happening in America, of course, in the world, and look forward to our discussion.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's get into it. We have a lot to get into. So first, Newark Airport has been in the news a lot lately, from lost communication with planes to extended delays and even flight cancellations. Congressman, you blame the mess on Trump. Can you tell us why?
Well, the situation at Newark is unacceptable, and it's complicated because you do have aging equipment. But on day one, January 20th of this new administration, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and the rest of the sycophants who ride with him, they launched an unprecedented assault against aviation safety, dismantled the Aviation Safety Committee, fired the head of the FAA, ran some air traffic controllers off the job, and basically have frozen the budget. And so all of these things tend to add up and create situations like what we see at Newark Airport. It's my hope that the Transportation Secretary, Secretary Duffy, is going to work in a responsible way, because if you impact things at Newark Liberty Airport, which is one of the busiest airports in the country, it doesn't just affect people in the tri-state area because the whole aviation system is interconnected. It affects everybody, and everybody should be concerned with making sure we can get this situation turned around.
Congressman Jeffries, first of all, I do appreciate having it kicked back to the people who are the most affected. Like, we, the public, are the most affected by, lapses in judgment when it comes to our safety. And some people might say that lapse isn't a strong enough word. I myself was supposed to fly into Newark next week. I changed my flight, and as well as our team's flight. It costs me double to do so because everyone's like, you can't fly into Newark right now. So what's the fix? Because obviously anytime something like this happens, the cost is the burden of the public to carry. So what's the fix? And is this a political failure or just decades of airline neglect catching up with us? I mean, we have to see both sides. So what do you think?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's definitely a little bit of both. And because there have been decades of underinvestment in aviation safety, and we do have aging equipment, particularly at Newark Airport, as I understand it. But at the same period of time, there's been an assault on the federal government, as if the federal government doesn't matter. You're firing thousands of federal employees. That's disgraceful. These are hardworking public servants. You're creating an environment where people are reluctant to join the federal workforce because, they may not know whether they'll have a job the next day, the next week, the next month, given how erratic things are. And we were already dealing with an air traffic controller shortage. And so the administration does bear some responsibility. The buck stops with whoever is seated at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. We know Donald Trump spent 4 years blaming every single thing on Joe Biden. Well, now he's the president, and he has a responsibility for trying to fix these things and turn things around. And remember, y'all, right out of the gate, like inside of about 10 days during the Trump presidency, we had a tragic airline accident, the most deadly airplane crash in America since 9/11 that happened over Washington National Airport. And what's the first thing this guy does? He blames diversity, equity, and inclusion. You ain't serious, right, about aviation safety or anything else. But clearly, out of the gate, you showed us you're not serious about aviation safety when you go to your go-to excuse, which is to try to blame Black folks for the aviation situation that was a tragedy then and still needs to be resolved to this day.
Congressman, I've been racking my brain since I've been seeing these idiotic, moronic, stupid moves that Trump has been making. And I just don't know what the end game is. Like, I don't know the attack on the federal employees. I saw a report today, I have to check on this, saying that 106,000 Black women have been affected by all these cuts. They're the biggest, they're the biggest opponents of Donald Trump, and I see why he's attacking them. But I don't understand why the attack on so many federal employees, and especially the FAA. I don't understand the end game of that. Like, what do you have any idea why?
Well, it is perplexing. And I think we have a situation where Elon Musk was, put in charge of trying to downsize the federal government or, from his standpoint, take a chainsaw to the federal government. And that's disgraceful, right? I mean, they want to take a chainsaw to Social Security, a chainsaw to Medicare, a chainsaw to Medicaid. We need to take a chainsaw to Project 2025 because that's what's actually doing damage. So part of Project 2025 is to try to, downsize the federal workforce. And I think there's this broader strategy amongst right-wing Republicans that can be characterized as demonize, downsize, and then privatize, right? First, they want to demonize public sector employees. My mom and my dad were both public sector employees. One worked for the city, the other worked for the state. Pretty much throughout their entire career, it was a pathway for me into a working class background in central Brooklyn, but they want to demonize hardworking public employees or federal workers. Then they want to try to downsize, right? Firing people, trying to buy people out, intimidate folks from not joining the workforce. And then ultimately the objective is to go to privatization because they can make money. And if you think about the first 100 days plus of the Trump administration, chaos is the point. Cruelty is the point. They're deporting American citizens, 2, 3, 4 years old, some with cancer, right? Cruelty is the point. And corruption is the point, which is now being made abundantly clear for a lot of Americans when this guy is talking about a $400 million flying palace that he is going to try to receive from Qatar, who, by the way, are close friends with Iran and Hamas. I thought those were enemies, not friends of the United States of America.
We were going to jump into that later in the show, but we can just get into that now because that is just, first of all, isn't the plane 13, 14 years old and it would take hundreds of millions of dollars to get it in shape to be on the level to be worthy to be Air Force One? It's unbelievable, the blatant grifting in our faces and his supporters. It's whatever you like, whatever you like. It's unbelievable. Being, you've been in Congress and you've seen the way things supposed to go. Is it just OMG every single day?
Yeah, it's interesting because this situation in the Senate, you've had a handful of Senate Republicans say, no, this is too much for us. We ain't really down with this. In the House, the sycophants, on the House Republican side, they haven't said a peep. Now, mind you, this is the same group of people who had a meltdown when Barack Obama had the nerve in the dead of August, where it's incredibly hot, particularly in Washington, D.C., to wear a tan suit. And some of them wanted to impeach him over a tan suit. And now you can't hear a word from them about the corruption that is unfolding before our very eyes. They've got no credibility. And Claudia, you're absolutely right. The thing is, it's a $400 million gift, but the taxpayers are still going to be on the hook by some reports for at least $1 billion because you have to upgrade, you know, Air Force One, which they're turning into Corrupt Force One. You got to upgrade it. You have to put in place missile systems, anti-missile defense systems, maneuvering. You've got to try to make sure that there are no foreign surveillance mechanisms embedded on the plane, which can be microscopic. So that whole process is expensive. So the whole thing is a sham. And it's only because the guy, President Trump, you know, wants to be able to travel the country or the world in this luxury situation. Mind you, he spent all the last year saying his top focus would be lowering the high cost of living in the United States of America. In fact, he told us that costs were going to go down on day one. But costs aren't going down. They're going up. Inflation is going up. They're crashing the economy in real time and driving us toward a recession. This is one of the reasons why he has become the most unpopular president after the first 100 days in American history. And we're going to keep the pressure on them.
You know, Congressman, you said a whole word when we talk about just the hypocrisy between President Obama's administration versus Trump. And I mean, realistically, it goes back to, I often quote my father, but he would say, Erica, you can't do what they do. And that happens whether it's me and somebody else or the presidency at every level. We just cannot do what they are allowed to do. But ultimately, I think you hit the nail on the head, even though it may not have been exactly your point earlier, when you talked about both of your parents working in the private sector and how that was a pipeline for your ascension, for your success. And I think at the root of that, it's a neutralization, because when we're talking about people of color, specifically Black people, when we're talking about immigrants, you're talking about people who did not have a pathway. Those pathways were very much intimate. They were one generation removed, or we are actually in it. So the viability of the work ethic just looks different. And ultimately, when we're talking about neutralizing a playing field, it is very difficult to compete when someone is a track star. And that's kind of where we are in this conversation. So when people are like, it's not, you know, it's to create chaos. Yes, it is to create chaos. It's for us to look over here when all of these chaotic things are happening over here, so we miss the point. So for anyone who is missing the point, Congressman, what can we be doing, like tangible measures right now, to ensure that all of these pipelines that generations ahead of us created aren't closed?
Yeah, well, Erica, thank you for that question. And the bottom line is, one, we're sort of in a moment with John Lewis, who I had the honor and privilege of serving with in the Congress for about 8 years, said to us all the time, listen, when you see something wrong, make sure you show up, you stand up, you speak up for what you know is right. Never give up, never give in, get into necessary trouble and good trouble. And this is a good trouble moment. Now, that can be done in a variety of different ways, but every single American has one Congress member and 2 senators. And you should be in touch with your representatives in Washington. We don't work for Donald Trump. We don't work for Elon Musk. We don't work for a wannabe king. We work for you, the American people. And we need to hear from you. So that's important for folks to be able to do. Whether it's a Democratic member of Congress or a Republican member of Congress, express your position and what you think we should be doing on your behalf, the issues that you care about. The other thing is making sure that you show up. So when there are events that are taking place in your community being held by a member of Congress who represents you, show up to express yourself or to listen, to hear a perspective, and encourage others in your family, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors to do so. That stuff does really matter to us because at the end of the day, you know, we work for the American people. We need to hear from the people we work for. And then the last thing that I'd say is that on any issue that one may be passionate about, it may be healthcare, it may be economic empowerment, you know, it may be Social Security, it may be public education, whatever the issue may be, civil rights, voting rights, there's an advocacy organization that is doing good work in this space to try to protect things from, going in the wrong direction based on the assault that has been launched by Donald Trump and his administration. And your member of Congress, your senators, your elected officials, we can connect you with those advocacy organizations for folks who want to lean in and do a little bit more.
So we would contact our congressman or our representative, our senators to get that information.
Absolutely, and we can make sure that you get all that information to your viewers on issues that are important to those that you regularly communicate with, and that is something that's going to be required in this moment, as John Lewis and others would have us do.
Well, you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk. Actually, when we met up, we talked about messaging and how things have changed now. Like the gone are the days of the politeness in politics. It's totally changed. It's gotten down to like wrestling almost. It feels like WWE now, as opposed to, highly educated representatives. I mean, the Democrats are still holding the line when it comes to, speaking with some sort of education and couth. But on the Republican side, it has just been disgusting what we've been witnessing. It's embarrassing,
Yeah, they're out of control. And sometimes, if I know I'm heading into a tough debate on the House floor, or, previously when I was on the Judiciary Committee, which is like being in the Coliseum, I'd have to put some diss tracks on just to get myself ready.
Okay, what's your diss track song? Do you have? Give us one. Is it Ether? Is it? I don't know. I know you're a fan of him.
Yeah. I mean, listen, Ether's a killer. The Takeover is a killer. Those are two legends, right? I mean, my go-to old school diss track is The Bridge Is Over. That's when I was in high school.
Boogie Down Productions, The Bridge Is Over, and South Bronx, my two favorite BDP songs.
There you go. BDP, KRS-One, shut the whole situation down. Even Nas admitted, man, we had to hold our heads down in Queensbridge for a couple of years. And then Nas and of course, some of the other artists came out of Queensbridge, Mobb Deep, and they killed it, and they brought the bridge back. But yeah, that KRS-One was the original, for me at least, the original diss track. But there's so many, others that I've got to turn to from time to time to get myself ready.
I love the image of Congressman Jeffries getting ready to go battle with these stubborn old dinosaur Republicans, listening to KRS-One, listening to The Bridge Is Over before you go in like that. We need to hear more of that. Okay, so let's get into this next topic. We have to talk about the proposed Trump budget cuts. Now, the House Ways and Means Committee pulled an all-nighter, working over 17 hours straight and ending this morning. They voted to move forward, a key part of Trump's agenda, with all Republicans voting yes and all Democrats voting no. What does that mean, Congressman, for the American people?
Yeah, so Democrats were battling all night on the Ways and Means Committee and on the Energy and Commerce Committee. These are two key committees in terms of the Republican budget that's working its way through the House right now. One committee, Ways and Means, it was all about, the Trump tax scam and the fact that they're trying to cut healthcare, cut nutritional assistance, cut veterans benefits or educational services and things of that nature, all in service of trying to provide a massive tax break for their billionaire donors like Elon Musk, when they should be focused on trying to lower the high cost of living. We agree. Housing costs are too high, groceries too high, insurance too high, utilities, childcare. This is what we should be focused on, not actually making life better for Elon Musk and these billionaire MAGA donors who don't need the assistance at this point in time. They already got a big tax break back in 2017 during the original version of the GOP tax scam. So Democrats were a hard no in committee, and also battled it out on the Energy and Commerce side, which has jurisdiction over healthcare. And what Republicans are proposing right now is the largest healthcare cut in American history. Children are going to get hurt, families, seniors, everyday Americans, people with disabilities are going to get hurt. And by the way, whether you're on Medicaid or not, and 80 million people rely on Medicaid to get their health insurance. So that's a significant number of Americans. Every family has someone connected to Medicaid in some way, shape, or form, particularly, if you have a mother or a father, grandmother or grandfather who are in a nursing home. The majority of people who get nursing home care rely on Medicaid. That includes middle-class families. And so if you devastate Medicaid, if you devastate healthcare, then what's going to happen is your hospital may close. That affects everybody. Your nursing home may close. That affects everybody. And it is really a matter of life and death. Your community health clinic or center may close. And so the Republicans have voted to advance the tax portion and the healthcare portion of the bill to the next stage. Ultimately, everything will go to one final committee, the budget committee, and then we'll have a big debate thereafter on the House floor. And Republicans have been accusing us Democrats of lying about their intentions. No, we ain't lying about your intentions. $715 billion in cuts to Medicaid is the largest cut in American history, and it's immoral, and you're going to hurt everyday Americans, and we're going to continue to fight them until the very end.
Are the recipients in red states? A large portion of them are in red states as well. I can't believe that these Republicans are just that bold.
That's exactly right. They're hurting their own constituents. And you're talking about rural hospitals rely on Medicaid funding to survive. Hospitals are going to close in rural America in many Republican districts that are represented by these extremists on the other side of the aisle. They're hurting their own constituents. That's why you actually have a handful of Senate Republicans like Josh Hawley. I rarely agree with him on anything, who has said, I'm not supporting this bill because you actually are going to hurt working class Americans, including many that he represents in Missouri. So those are the facts. And we're going to fight as hard as we can. We only need 4 Republicans in the House to break from the other 216, right? There's a total of 220 in the House right now. We only need 4 Republicans to do the right thing, and we can stop all of this madness from happening. And that's what we're working on every day, every week, until we can get to a better place here in the country.
I think obviously this all works hand in hand. There is a master plan. And I think when it really comes down to it, a lot of it does have to do with this idea of political gaslighting, but it also relies on people's ignorance. I remember 8 years ago when people were being interviewed in the streets and they're like, I'm against Obamacare, but they took my Affordable Care Act away. And it was like they had no clue that they were actually voting against their own interests. And that's by design. I mean, when we think about the dismantling of the Department of Education, that's what this is all coming down to. The American people being beholden for everything to the government. And it's a very scary situation. Now, I know Claudia mentioned earlier, leader, that you walk it like you talk it, but you also stand it like you talk it, and you sit in like you talk it, because you held a 12-hour sit-in to protest Trump's budget cuts. My question is kind of twofold. One, as things become increasingly changing in the media landscape, particularly in digital media, are there going to be ways that we're traditionally working in our favor to kind of galvanize the people that might not be as traditional, but are things kind of changing that way? Or are sit-ins as effective as we feel they used to be historically?
Yeah, and this is in the great tradition of our civil rights heroes who found ways to dramatize the situation in order to reach the American people as part of an effort to get things turned around. And so, when Corey and I made the decision together to sit down on the House steps the day before Congress was coming back into session to consider this extreme and reckless and harmful budget, we said, you know what, we're going to sit down and we're just going to have a conversation. 2 colleagues, 2 friends, 2 brothers. I've known Corey for more than 20 years. We got started on our public service journey around the same time. Him in Newark, Brick City, myself, in the BK, but we were just right across from each other in terms of the Hudson River. And we said, you know what? It's just going to be the two of us, and we'll live stream the conversation. We started at 6:15 a.m. in the morning. And I said to Corey, look, at minimum, I think we got a guaranteed audience. He said, you got a guaranteed audience? I said, yeah, of two people, your mother and my mother. And so we started with two. But then as the day went on, hundreds started to tune in. Then it was thousands. Then it was tens of thousands. Then it was hundreds of thousands. And then it was millions when it was all said and done. And hundreds of people showed up, probably more than 1,000 in total, to actually sit with us as we were having conversations with the American people. Advocates showed up. We had a rabbi, and some Baptist preachers, or some Black members of the clergy show up. We had an imam show up, and we were all talking about our values, the struggle, our faith. And by the end of the day, I think we had tens of millions of impressions within 24 hours. And so it was an example around something that I think both you and Claudia have leaned into, which is, you got to reach the people in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And there's traditional media, and that's fine. And particularly as it relates to local press, local TV, local radio, local print, that will continue to be very important for members of Congress. But there are other ways to reach people to get information. And Trump diabolically did this in November of 2024. And our view is we will never let him out communicate us in that way again.
Well, we appreciate it. I know it may feel frustrating at times doing what you do, fighting the good fight. And, when I see the criticism of the Democratic Party, like, do something, you're doing what you can with the tools you have. And until you get the majority back, what you have to do, people may deem it symbolic, whatever gets us inspired again and gets people back out there. It's unbelievable that we're that close, though, right? We need 4 congressmen to do the right thing. And it's sad that out of 220, right? It's 220.
That's right. You got it.
220, that we don't have 4 decent Republicans that want to save America. We don't have 4 decent Republicans that care about women's health care, rights, minorities, immigration. They're all on code, walking with their cult leader. And it's so frustrating. And it's frustrating that, America has been dumbed down. They're doing a fine job of it. And it's working with that crowd. And they're never going to turn the channel from Fox News, faux news, to hear the real story. They're getting propaganda 24/7. So they're just getting their ignorant views reinforced. And that's, I know it's got to be frustrating for you.
No, it's interesting because, listen, our view at the end of the day, we're going to try as hard as we can to find 4 people to conduct themselves in an enlightened fashion over these next 18 months to stop bad things from happening and joining, with us as House Democrats to do that. But the most important thing that we can do at the end of the day on the political side is take back control of the House. And we can do that next year. In fact, we'll only need to flip 3 seats because we'll be back at full strength by the end of this year. We'll only need to flip 3 seats and we can take back control of the House, and we can cut, this guy's presidency in half legislatively, start to really do some good things for the American people, and begin the process of ending this long national nightmare.
We're definitely going to do our part. I know you have to go, but just one last question, if you don't mind.
Sounds good.
Okay. This headline we have to ask you about. Very vocal, love her. Representative Jasmine Crockett was recently asked who she thinks will run in the presidential race in 2028. She said Dems want the safest white boy to run. Is this a fair critique or friendly fire?
Yeah, listen, I actually think we're going to have a pretty big, diverse field in 2028. Now, we got to get to 2028, which means we better win in 2026, flip the House, lay the foundation to have actual democratic elections that work for the American people. So that's really my goal at this particular moment in time. But I think, whether it's Wes Moore, whether it's Cory Booker, whether it's Ruben Gallego, whether it's Gretchen Whitmer, whether it's Gina Raimondo, right? And then a whole host of other folks like Josh Shapiro and, Andy Bashir, You can just go down the list. The governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. You're going to have a lot of folks who will be running in 2028, and it's going to be a diverse group because Democrats do actually look like what David Dinkins, the former mayor of New York, would call the gorgeous mosaic. And I think that's a good thing, but we got to get to 2028 by first getting to 2026. And that means doing what we got to do to take back control of the House.
Well, we have our marching orders, that's for sure. I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of a storm. I don't know if y'all hear the thunder.
I did hear that thunder a little bit. I thought that was like sound effects. It was working for you, given what you were saying.
You know what? It's kind of symbolic, Erica, because we're in a political storm right now.
We are. I was like, can y'all hear that? Because I am on the roof. Okay. Yes.
Representative, Congressman, we really appreciate you coming to sit down with us. I know you're super busy. And I mean, if there's ever any time you want to come back, we would love to have you to get some messaging out there. Please use us as one of your tools out there. We have a lot of people that watch us, and we're growing every day. We're going to start doing live shows, and we really care. This show was born after the election for the 92 percenters, but it's not just for the 92 percenters. But we really want to address this. I feel like a lot of people just didn't really know what was going on and didn't really realize that our country could ever really go down this path. And now that we're here, we don't want to let it slip further than it already has. So we want to do everything that we can do. So we appreciate you so much.
Well, we thank you both. Appreciate you, and go Knicks.
I'm a Celtics fan.
Listen, I rock with Jason Tatum. I wish him nothing but the best. But the boys in orange and blue are doing their thing, and the city is on fire right now.
No, it's good for the Knicks because y'all haven't been good in a really long time. So
that's real talk right there.
I'm sorry. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. We encourage all of our viewers to please follow the leader, and please, he's doing some really good things. And I love your passionate speeches. You go in, and no wonder you're a fan of KRS-One. And I get it now. It all makes sense now.
Thank you both.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it, Congressman.
Bye.
Put it on, girl. Let me see it. Put it on, girl. Let me see it.